Yeah, 4-4.
Again.
4-4's
Same
off.
one. Okay. And I just say the same thing as being continued?
Yeah, just it's continued.
Okay.
Yeah, just continue.
Okay. Oh, it's that I know those are expensive. Okay. Well, yes, yeah. Yes. Okay. Okay. Oh crap, do I?
All right. Oh, jeez. Present. Oh, well, yeah. Well, I want to take that out and put it on my. It's got stickers on my wall. All right.
In this one.
No, it should be at the end, the very back.
Okay. It's not a big deal. Because it will get into the minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's all that matters.
The director for high school,
Yes.
he asked if he can have you just for high school minutes.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just go in that order. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay. You guys ready? You ready? You ready? Ready? Okay. Good evening. This is the regular joint meeting of the Oakley City Council acting as the successor agency to the Oakley Redevelopment Agency, Oakley Public Financing Authority. This meeting is called to order at 6:30 p.m. Roll call. Councilmember Henderson?
Here.
Councilmember Fuller?
Dr. OG is here.
Councilmember Meadows?
Here.
And Vice Mayor Shaw? Here. And I am Mayor Anissa Williams, present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1.3, we have an update from Liberty Union High School District Superintendent Eric Volta and Oakley Union Elementary School District Superintendent Jeff Palmquist. You guys can rock, paper, scissors if you want. Rock, paper, scissors.
Well, since Jeff usually has the students first and I'm do it last, I'll start. Change it up a little bit. I gave City Manager McMurray a little handout for you, just a brief fast facts. First of all, looking at the trends in enrollment for Freedom High School. And if you notice, Freedom High School topped out in 2016. That would be October of 2016. And since then, it's gone up and down over the years. Its official enrollment this year was 2,478, and actually the actual current enrollment today is under 2,400 students. And you could also see where our district enrollment is headed as well. The reason why I think that's important for the council, obviously you make a lot of decisions. A lot of times you hear about overcrowding in schools and about the growth of our schools, and you can see that Freedom is not growing as a result of a lot of the development on East Cypress. In terms of academics, we are in the process of implementing our fourth year equitable grading practices, in which we've had 4 cohorts of teachers study the book Equitable Grading for Equity, and they're trying to implement some of the ideas of that book into their own practice with the hopes of next year having a Liberty Union High School District grading guidelines. Ed Code does not allow us to dictate how our teachers grade, but we can have guidelines. And obviously, as a parent of high school students, it would be nice to have some similarity between classes, and if you've ever experienced that. Our instructional coaches continue to work with McCrell, which is Mid-Continental Research and Educational Laboratories, on research-supported best practices with all of our teachers as they lesson plan. And last year, 1 out of 10 seniors were accepted into a UC. And this is at Freedom High School, 8 into UC Berkeley, 4 into UCLA. So in terms of academics, Freedom top students are doing very, very well. I included some pictures of the new auxiliary gymnasium, new facility for Oakley, along with the new varsity baseball infield and field, as well as our new construction academy, which is now a full-fledged California Partnership Academy. You can see the shop picture right there. Attached to that is a classroom. The theater and construction class was close to $27 million from Measure U funds. The auxiliary gym was a little under $9 million, and that was a decision that the school made. We were going to build new classrooms, but when it came to that decision time, Freedom was not seeing the growth and really needed an auxiliary gym, so that's why they decided on that as opposed to classrooms like Liberty and Heritage, if you ever get that question. And then the pool expansion, we increased the lanes, and that was $1.2 million. I will say that when we went out for the Measure U bond, we anticipated the bond costing taxpayers $26 per $100,000 of assessed valuation. We had a very, very conservative estimate and assessed valuation growth. Right now, the taxpayers are paying less than $17 per $100,000 of assessed valuation because of our conservative estimate and assessed valuation. So we have no worries about defaulting on that bond, and at the same time, people got a lot for their money. You can see some of our district focus. You can see that a lot of it is rooted in data of all of our students, disaggregated data based upon English learner versus non-English learners, students with disabilities versus students without disabilities, racial and ethnic makeup, and so on, academically and also behaviorally. The last bullet is one of the things that people do not know is that the Liberty Union High School District is the 4th lowest funded high school district in the state. There are 77 high school districts in the state, and we are the 4th lowest funded when you look at per student revenue from the state in general fund. So what can we do to stay competitive with other districts that will try to buy out teachers? A lot of it is the conditions for learning and the conditions for working on our campuses, and that's why we spend a lot of time with the upkeep of our facilities. Also, we are just now investigating. We've had a couple of study sessions with our board, so I'm not telling any stories out of school, about teacher housing. We have identified some properties that we own, and there is that potential down the road as well. If you look at the next page, you'll see a slide that Dr. Amaro shows every staff meeting. We talk about data. He talks about it every single staff meeting. He talks about individual data of teachers' classrooms, who's succeeding, who's not succeeding. And then just another fact about our school district, the Liberty Union High School District was the only 11th grade group cohort last year to overall improve in English language arts and math in this county. Some districts improved their English language arts scores, some districts improved their math scores. No other district improved their high school scores in both English and math. And then you can see the district budget. This year we have a $137 million budget. We had an 8.22% COLA. Things were great. We negotiated an 8% pay increase to try to keep pace with our neighbors to the west. And we also received more money from the state for arts in Prop 28 dollars. Looking at the year ahead, we're looking at a $135 million budget, a 0.76% COLA, decline in enrollment in ADA, pandemic ADA relief stops, and we will complete all of our spending with Measure U once we finish an environmental science area at Heritage. So budget-wise, we're going to have to start tightening our belts. Any questions?
I think there are questions. I'm so sorry. Our box isn't working though. I don't know who's trying to, it says like exception and it has some address on it. Sorry. I think you were asking, you wanted a question? Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, thank you. I had two. First, what's the program or the academy or the partnership that?
It's a California Partnership Academy whereby schools will create a smaller learning community within a school and also partner with, in this case, contractors, home builders, and so on to create a school-to-career program. It's also called linked learning in some cases. We have the classes. There's just a little extra funding for us to make clean classes of core classes for students to be in English 11 Construction Academy and U.S. History Construction Academy and so on. So these students will be going to school together.
One other question is, it was concerning to hear that you're the fourth lowest funded. Are you talking about per student or?
Yes. We do not have, how do I explain this as quickly as possible? The new funding model, new as in the last 10 years, schools with high numbers of students that are either English learners or on free and reduced lunch receive a greater amount of money per student. And also there are some high school districts that are rather small in some affluent areas that receive more money than the state would actually give them under LCFF. We have a low population of students that need, at least the ones that are signing up for free and reduced lunch, and we're under 30%. So because of those factors, our general fund revenues are not as great as some
Well, I want to congratulate you. I've been watching the figures, and yes, you went up in both areas, English and math, which was pretty stellar for California. And also, I noticed your acceptance rates are at least at par, if not more, than into the UCs and CSUs. So I appreciate that also. So,
very happy with last year's acceptance rates at the schools. We'll see what this year's are.
thank you.
You guys are just gonna have to raise your hand if you have questions for now, I guess. No. One question actually about the budget. Because we're the fourth lowest funding, where are you finding that has the biggest impact? It sounded like you were saying trying to attract teachers. Do you have any statistics on how many openings or shortages we have in the teacher?
Currently have 4 openings for next year. We just went over that today. 3 of them are in English, so we feel pretty confident. In fact, we had some principals have interviews today. For those people that have had kids go through our schools, you wonder why we have our freshmen sign up for classes so early and into January, beginning of February. A big part of that is so we know what our needs are in terms of courses so that we can be one of the first ones out to offer teachers.
Great. All right, thanks.
And the great thing is we're now starting to get teachers from other districts to say, if I teach in your district, can I bring my child with me for our schools? So that's another way that we're attracting teachers from other places.
That's great. Okay, I think you're off the hook. I think you're off the hook. I don't think anybody has any more questions.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks.
Well, if he's off the hook, I guess that means I'm on the hook.
You're on the hook.
Thank you, Mayor Williams, members of the council, staff, community. Definitely a privilege to be here. Want to give you some high-level updates on some of the strategic goals and the initiatives that we're working on in the school district. Some of the things we're really excited and proud of, and then some of the things that are challenges and barriers for 2024. We adopted 3 strategic goals. Those are flushed out into a lot of complex plans and strategies. I tried to summarize them for you. And you'll notice that we set a goal around student achievement and engagement. We set a goal around community leadership and engagement. And we set a goal around facility management and planning. And each one of those carries with it things that have been lifted up not only by our community, but things that are part of what's called our LCAP process. And I'll share a little bit about that first goal around student achievement and engagement. There's a number of things we're doing to not only increase our students' performance, but also their buy-in and their connection to school. And really, our theme for the year was, you belong here, and trying to create places of belonging for every single one of our students so that they would see themselves, their families would see themselves as part of the school. And that's more and more a challenge, not only just in society in general, but in, post-COVID society, bringing people back in and making them, have that connection. One of the things that, is happening across the state is the local, the accountability plan, LCAP, which you may or may not know about. But what we're doing to engage our community this year is a little bit different than we've done in the past. And it also touches on our goals to engage our community, really trying to use advisory councils. And even tonight, there's an extended parent advisory council meeting that really grew as a follow-up to one of the first ones where they said, hey, we want to do another one. And we're getting a turnout that is, far surpasses what we've had in the past. And really it is trying to engage those folks in helping us develop the next 3-year plan. And a lot of good feedback's come in through surveys, a lot of good feedback's come in through the participation, in those meetings. We're really continuing on with our continued work with the county. We have a literacy grant that we're in the final year of. That grant has provided a substantial investment in professional development for our teachers. We really focused some of those initial efforts around our TK2. We did that strategically because we figured we needed it, as we re-engage, and we're going to use some of these, these assets in the way of the literacy grant. Where shall we focus first? And we know that we get the biggest return, and we can intervene as early as possible so that they'll matriculate up. Another thing that really we announced just at our last board meeting that we see as a real game changer as it relates to staffing. You just asked about staffing. I know they said that, I think Mr. Volta said they needed 3 English teachers. That's our biggest area of need right now too. So I'd advise, if you know of anybody, send them over here to the elementary school district first, and I'll vet them. And then, if there's anybody left over, we'll be happy to send them over to Liberty. But we received 3 state grants to start our own residency program. We just got that announcement that we got the big one, and by big one, I mean $1.8 million. So we'll have over $2 million between these 3 grants to build an in-house residency program. One helps our classified employees who might be interested in becoming certificated teachers. There's assistance for them, financial assistance, and other forms of assistance to help them do that. The big one we just got, this expansion grant, is going to allow us to set up a cohort of teachers where they will come and do their residency with us. They'll be mentored by our teachers. They'll get substantial money to offset the cost that usually are associated with that. And we have a higher ed partner in National University. So we're looking to launch those things. We're in the process of launching them right now. We see this as a substantial win in our sales to developing, growing our own teachers, because if they're part of that residency program, there's a very good chance that they're going to choose to stay with us when they complete that residency and complete that credential. So that's really exciting news. That's something that we're really pleased to get going on. And we already have some folks who've expressed some interest. We've also submitted for an administrator residency grant as well. Waiting to hear on that. But that would also allow us to help develop some of the people we have already in the district. through an administrative residency grant, and then provide them the assistance, because that's usually the barrier. It's either the time to completion or the financial cost. So good things ahead in helping us to kind of develop and cultivate our own. As far as community leadership and engagement goes, we set an intention with the board to not only host but attend community-wide events. And so that's something I track on a weekly basis, like what's coming up, what are the opportunities. Really want to make sure that we're seen not just as leaders in the school district, but partners and leaders in the community at large. And that has been really the will of the Board of Trustees. It's something that is important to me as well. And so in addition to not only just engaging in that way, we really want to focus and listen to our families. I mentioned we have advisory councils. Not only do we have a parent advisory council that is meeting on our LCAP, just started our African American Parent Advisory Council, something that has been long in the making, something we're very excited about. We held 2 meetings and had a really great turnout. Already got some really great feedback and working on the next steps with that. Facility management and planning. We did a facilities conditions assessment last year. We did that to really identify the deferred maintenance. Likely and hopefully you notice, marquees up at schools, schools painted. A lot of those projects to tackle some things that we've wanted to do for a long time. That facilities conditions assessment helped us with that. It helped us with the deferred maintenance, help us deal with what we have now. But we know and set a goal to look at a facility master plan and really think about not only what we need to maintain what we have now, but really with an eye towards the future, which is here. We aren't a declining enrollment district. We're growing. We're going to grow steadily. Each year in the last 3 years, we've added 50, 60, 70 students depending on the minute. I think we're up about 70 some odd students this year as well. Our demographic studies show that's going to continue to grow incrementally like that. And especially as we look at the Cypress corridor, we know that more and more students are coming, more and more houses are coming. So we need to look at a facility master plan that not only incorporates all the deferred maintenance and what we've learned about taking care of what we have, but we need to think about the future as well. And so that is a top priority as well. We just did a series of presentations and brought before the board a substantial and significant upgrade to our facility security across every single not only site, but district facility. Includes surveillance, includes access points, it includes a number of things that we know are top of people's minds. That presentation, I think it was 2 board meetings ago that we actually had the vendor come, and so that's something that will be happening in the very near term, is a substantial investment in that. And we continue to be proud of the work we're doing with the city and our other partners on things like joint use and other agreements. Those are all things that not only part of our community engagement, but really trying to take care of all the things that we have, maximize those resources, but start thinking about and really planning for the future that's here right now. I mentioned that we are growing. We will continue to grow for at least our studies usually go about 5-6 years out, and it shows continued growth. Some of the challenges that we're looking at, Mr. Volta shared about the state budget. We're not immune from all of those things as well. We had, the past few years, as we've tried to wean ourselves off of that one-time money that came through some of the different sources, really had an eye on being good stewards of the resources we have. We're in a spot where we'll be able to come out of deficit spending as we spend down all of that money for those one-time resources. But we're definitely cognizant of what happens at the state level that impacts us very directly. And so, we're cautious when it comes to those things, but those are real pressures. And so they do create, while we have the opportunity to do a lot of the things that we've laid out here, those are pressures that we constantly face. And so, we'll be looking at that May revise, and we'll be looking at what happens in the adopted budget to see what the ramifications are for us. And then we're, try to adjust and meet those demands. We still continue to deal with, like everywhere else, those, post-COVID behavior and the supports that are necessary in our school sites. A lot of investment into social emotional response and support. Those aren't they're not going away, those needs. That's just part of what our, what's out there in our society, and we're no different here. Our goal is to rise to those challenges and provide the resources and support that our folks need so that they can be successful. And we're continuing to work through structure and alignment. Went through a fairly substantial restructuring of some of the district office departments, and we're working through roles and responsibilities. That's just something we're doing internally so that we can provide better support to school site, better support to our families. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? You guys have to raise hands. I have questions. So you said that enrollment isn't declining for OUSD, it's going up?
Yeah.
Okay. And so with all the growth that's anticipated out on Cypress, does that mean, I know originally there was a school site planned, is there still talks of that potentially happening?
Yeah, so part of this facilities master plan would include, the short answer is yes, and then this is comprehensive, not just on that growth, but really what are the ramifications across the district? What about our boundaries? What about the state of affairs in our current sites, what they may need? But it would also include, and we would, we're getting ready to release a request for proposals for firms to come and do that work, and we would task them in addition with the needs out that way. Summer Lake is pretty full, and it's not going to not continue to grow. And so we know that as more and more houses come in, that's going to be a prime area. So yes, we're still working through a lot of those pieces, but they're very active. I can say that on a regular basis, those are things top of mind for us.
All right, great. No more? More questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to item 1.4, proclamation recognizing May 5th through 11, 2024 as Municipal Clerks Week, and I will be presenting to Libby Veronis. All right, proclamation recognizing 55th Annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week, May 5th through 11, 2024. Whereas the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels, and whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, and whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community, and whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the professional municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the professional municipal clerk. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Anissa Williams, Mayor of the City of Oakley, along with the members of the Oakley City Council, do recognize the week of May 5th through 11th, 2024 as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our professional municipal clerk and to all professional municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent.
Madam Mayor, we're not going to be able to fix the technical difficulty
Okay.
During this meeting, so we'll make
Hands
sure.
raised, everybody.
Yeah,
Hands raised.
sorry about that.
Thank you for trying. All right, we are now moving on to public comments. At this time, public comments will be heard for items not on the agenda. I have public speaker cards. I also have comments submitted. To submit a public comment, please complete a blue speaker card located in the lobby and submit to the city clerk. The time limit to speak is 3 minutes. The time limit is monitored by the timer located in front of my seat. Hopefully that works. Okay, we'll see. The time limit is monitored by the timer located in front of my seat. When 1 minute remains on the timer, it will beep once as a reminder to complete comments before your time expires. Please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, or other outbursts so that everyone may have an opportunity to be heard. Note that due to provisions of state law, the council may not engage in dialogue regarding comments. Staff may be directed to respond to persons making public comments. All right, our first speaker is Mike Dupre.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mike Dupre, a resident of Oakley and a member of the East Contra Costa County NAACP Executive Committee and Education Committee. 2 years ago, there was a racist assault and bullying incident of a young man at a middle school here in Oakley. The mother of that young man, Angela Jackson, reached out on social media for help to resolve the racism problem that is pervasive in our K-12 schools. After several months of meetings between Mrs. Jackson, my wife and I, and Mr. Willie Mims, the Federal Office of Civil Rights was asked to arbitrate an agreement between our team of Mrs. Jackson, myself, Mr. Mims, and Oakley Union Elementary School District. After a little over 7 hours of negotiation, an agreement was reached. The agreement was on about 12 elements on 12 issues. However, the school district went above and beyond and created a complete anti-racism program. It was so well done, we've successfully offered it to other districts and decided to take it to the state as a resolution for legislation. Their program is called Creating Places of Belonging. I believe you all have a copy of that. On behalf of the parents of African American students and the NAACP, I'd like to thank Mr. Palmquist, Mrs. Bordenero, and Dr. Tiffany Monique Jenkins for their strength of character and courage to recognize the problem and work with Miss Angela Jackson and the NAACP. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Odessa LaFrancois.
Good evening, Mayor and Council Member. I'm not here tonight to accept a resolution for anything, but I am here for a couple of reasons. One is I do want to say thank you for the superintendent for creating a safe space and work with NAACP to make that happen. So when we talk about diversity and inclusion inside the school system, it's great to see that being done. But also, that has to happen in the community as a whole. With that being said, on May the 4th, we'll be honoring 5 seniors from East Contra Costa County on a scholarship. This is an annual banquet we do every year. Everyone is invited. I hope to see somebody there other than Shannon Shaw show up at the event. I would like to see the other council member. Diversity, inclusion. Oakley is changing. The environment is changing. Hope you can attend. If you want tickets, see Michael. Thank you.
I got him.
Thank you. Next, we have Bud Chaddick.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I want to respond to the last meeting and the effort of council and staff members for their efforts in contacting different people involved with enforcement and laws pertaining to poaching and destroying our Marsh Creek ecosystem. Agencies being that of Sheriff, Coast Guard, Fish and Wildlife, and East Bay Regional Parks in the matter in a form of a letter regarding the laws and enforcement. East Bay Regional has already been first to the rescue and making it known that they will have more enforcement involved both now and during the spawn period to write tickets. If there's an enforcement in sight, they will do so. Thank you, Colin Coffey, for that, in my way of looking at it, and East Bay Regional Park for your quick response, getting a hold of me, both phone calls and otherwise, and actually doing something. This has also been a major pickup. He also has been picking up afterwards and cleaning up the area of needles, tires, chop shop bicycles that guys are taking down there, cutting up and selling for parts. I've witnessed that. And cleaning up stuff that they shouldn't have to really clean up that way, in my mind. And needles and such from various dumpings that have been there. And it seems like it's transfer area for that kind of activity or something. They've really stepped up, and others need to, on the outside, need to help keep things clean as they have. Thank you, East Bay Park, and your workers. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to Iron House. They talked to me. Peter Zirkle here talked to me a little about it. And as for others, I have not been personally responded as far as enforcement types. The city has sent letters to help agents to get help from agencies and await their answers, which I wish to have a copy and share with groups concerned in the matter. And for that, I thank you and await the answers given. As far as the past Earth Day, I was on Upper Sand Creek Basin by the Kaiser facility in Antioch and retrieved many items out of the waterway. 3 hours, say a half mile or so. The tributary runs into Marsh Creek. We had 17 volunteers, got 251 plastic bottles and 233 food wrappers, along with a lot of other stuff out of there. Thank you, Victoria Woolfolk of Contra Costa Resource Conservation District, for doing so. And I'd also like to make a quick comment on I also attended a meeting in Sacramento regarding Bill Jenkins, Chairman of California Sport Fishing Protection Alliance, Delta Fish Protector and Water Quality Enforcer, and Jay Sorensen, who was also a defender of the Delta, and met with some senators there to talk about my issue.
Thank you. All right, next we have Vicki Morgan.
Hi, Mayor and Council members. I'm Vicki Morgan, and I just want to say I've lived in Oakley for 37 years. I love this town. And I've lived in my little quiet neighborhood that whole time, raised my kids here. And I think we need to figure out a way to have an ordinance for Airbnbs. There's one a couple houses down from me. The police have been called a few times. They had to clear the house one time. They're parking backwards on the lawn, 4 deep in the driveway, backwards, driving up and down, doing burnouts. So I think we need to address that. Also, I have a new renter on my street that is a nuisance, has 1 million cars, has a 20-foot limo. I've called the police to have his 20 cars towed. They've towed everything but the limo. They won't take the limo. He finally registered it. He says it's his car. It is not his car. He doesn't take care of his yard. It's a mess. He's crashing into neighbors' cars, and he doesn't have insurance. And I don't know what to do about this. If somebody could contact me, that would be great. It needs to be resolved. So it's been a little while since I've gone online and viewed the meeting, but the volume that's coming through on the meetings online is super low. You can't hear. So I don't know if that's something we can look at. And also, I just wanted to thank you guys for the job that you're doing. Watching other cities crash and burn, I really appreciate your service. Thank you.
Josh, can we get somebody? Yeah, okay, perfect. All right, now moving on to item 3, council member comments. Does anybody have any comments? Okay, I saw your hand first.
So I do appreciate the invite for the NAACP scholarship. Unfortunately, that is the night of our 25th anniversary party that we are starting. So you are the 4th person to actually personally invite me. So I did want to let you know that I will not be able to be there, but keep them coming.
All right, Councilmember Fuller.
Yes, first, thank you, Mr. Strello, for intercepting our last speaker. We do have an Airbnb policy. I wasn't sitting on the dais then, and we do have good code enforcement, which I've worked with police on parking also, so I believe it's there. So I appreciate that. But the second thing is I've just returned from the American Education Research Association, AERA, annual conference in Philadelphia, which is, there's 15,000 educators there from post-secondary schools mostly. So for me, it was intriguing. But why I bring it up is that during that time, and I've mentioned it before, but during that time, for people that are hard of hearing or audio processing deficits, they have a machine, a size of an iPad that you can put in the middle and will transcribe as being spoken the words. There be there. I am sure through AI that it could be programmed that we are speaking English, it could be done in Arabic at the same time. And if somebody isn't there, remember in the Taliban and Afghanistan are not allowing women to be educated, it's a crime. So if somebody isn't able to read their native language, we could probably get a Bluetooth which would translate it. I would like to look into that. It seems fairly inexpensive, easy to have. It could be available at the desk, at the clerk's desk, and hand to the person and said, here, so that people don't have to call ahead of time or go through a lot, but we would be able to, for hard of hearing, transcribe the dialogue, also translate it into their language, and hopefully could even do it, hopefully in their language in words. So I wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Any other council member comments? Okay. All right, great. I have to apologize. I am overcommitted on the 4th. I'm already putting Shannon in 2 different places for me, and I'm so sorry. I apologize to Mike already. All right, moving on to the consent calendar. I do want to note that 4.4 is still not ready, so we are going to move that. We'll continue it to the next meeting, hopefully. So if you were going to pull that, it's off the table right now. All right, so are there any items the council would like to pull for discussion? All right, Councilmember
Yes.
Fuller.
4.8, 4.9, 4.10, and 4.14.
Okay, 8, 9, 10, 14.
I will move the rest for approval, with the exception of 4.4 also.
Does anybody else have any they want pulled? Okay, so there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any noes? All right, passes 5-0. All right, so 4.8 is the first one.
Yes, I will try to address them all. I just want to say all of the 4.8, 4.9, 4.10, and 4.14, as I am reading in, addresses our IT, our website, our computer capabilities, our firewall protections, and I'm very happy. I've spoke for years, and it seems like one of the sentences that came out that I was glad we were looking for an assessment, but it came out, we at such and such a year implemented our computer system, and it is woefully out of date. So we are going to update it. So I want to thank Ms. Navarro for diligently researching this and bringing us ideas that will help make it access to our website easier and protect us from cyber attacks, hopefully in the process. Thank you.
I actually had one point on 4.142 that I was hoping we could get potentially added to the RFP. I would like to see some sort of language around what the provider is going to do to make sure that we are future-proofing our website. As new technologies and stuff come up, as modernization to the Brown Act comes up, I just want those providers who are going to bid to sort of have a way to address that and how they're going to ensure that it's always kept up to date and is using the latest and greatest technology so that, 15 years from now, council's not having to totally strip it and start all over. So I was wondering if we could build some of that in there.
Yes, that's definitely language that we can build in.
Great.
And Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, there's one other change that I would like to make for the draft RFP. It's on page 2 under deadline for proposals. The second paragraph should be removed. It still refers to the old process of mailing or hand delivering the RFP, and instead that section is covered later as emailing the RFP.
Okay, great. And then one more question. I don't think the staff report gave, it gave a little bit of a timeline, but what's sort of our overall timeline that we're hoping to have these back and have some progress really start?
So there is a timeline in there for receiving the actual RFP, so that's within 1 month. And for something as major as this, it could take up to a year, especially given the other priorities that we're working on, and we want to do it right this time. So we have built into the RFP asking for them to provide us a schedule as well, depending on the things that we ask for.
Great. Okay. Any other questions? And since Councilmember Fuller addressed those as a slate, we can approve them as a slate, correct?
Yes, let's make sure the record reflects a motion for those 4 items.
Sure.
Do we need a motion?
We do, yeah, we need a motion.
Yeah, I will move
Yes.
4.8, 4.9, 4.10, and 4.14 for approval.
Great. Do I have a second?
Second.
Perfect. We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None. Abstentions? None. All right, passes 5-0. All right, moving on to item 5, public hearings. There are no public hearings tonight. We will now move on to the regular calendar. We will have 6.1 annual report of military equipment usage for 2023 by our Chief of Police, Paul Beard.
Okay, Madam Mayor, members of council, thank you. It's always an honor to be here. Today, I am here to present the annual military report by the police department. Assembly Bill 481, which came to be in 2021, requires this bill. This bill requires that each police department have a policy in place to acquire and use military equipment as defined by the California Penal Code. Assembly Bill 481 also makes it so that the police department is working hand in hand with the city council. So the city council is reviewing the policy, procedure, and the annual report that I produce every year. The Penal Code delineates several forms of equipment used by the police that they deem as military equipment. However, the Oakley Police Department, we only use 3 items that are considered to be military equipment. Those are patrol rifles, less lethal launchers, and unmanned aerial vehicles, also known as drones. My current inventory is I have 32 patrol rifles with a current value of $2,604 each. That is enough to equip most of the people assigned to the police department, but in order to make sure that each sworn person in the police department has a rifle, we will need to acquire more. I have a total of 7 40-millimeter launchers. These range in value from $1,100 for my single barrel launcher to $2,100 for my 4-barrel multiple round launcher. And for clarification, the only 40-millimeter round that we use as the police department is what's considered to be an exact impact round. There is no gas associated with it or any foreign substance or anything like that. I also have 4 drones in my inventory. My drones are, one drone is valued at $2,700. The other drone is valued at $5,748. And I have 2 smaller drones, both valued at $909 each. In 2023, we had some purchases associated to military equipment or the support equipment necessary to use the military equipment, and that consisted of 3,000 rounds of ammunition for the patrol rifles. That was training ammunition, and the total cost of that ammunition was $1,644. We'll try it that way. I also purchased, our drone fleet was in disrepair. It was aged and it needed a lot of repair just to keep up and running. It had also aged out on its tech support, so we wanted to refresh what we had for a drone fleet. We purchased a DJI Mavic 3 thermal drone for the $5,748. We also purchased the 2 DJI Mini Pro drones. The particular drones that we purchased are considered industry standard, and they come with all the tech that one would want to see in a law enforcement capacity. For 2023, we held 6 training sessions involving the patrol rifle. Of those 6 sessions, we sent several people to their initial basic rifle school. So some of our newer officers were not qualified on the rifle, so we sent them away to school to have them trained. And the balance of those trainings consisted of making sure that our in-house officers receive their in-service training on an annual basis so that we can make sure they're staying proficient with their rifle. We also hosted 4 drone training sessions to make sure that all of our drone pilots are staying proficient with their skills. We only have 3 documented incidents involving military equipment last year. In April, we had a barricaded person on Walnut Meadows in which a drone was used. In May, we had a suspicious person on Rutherford where a drone was used. And in September, we were looking for a domestic battery suspect. He had fled the area. We used the drone to try to find him. The drone actually did find him, and he was taken into custody, much to the success of the drone that was used that night. We did not receive any concerns or complaints last year related to our usage of military equipment. Last week, we conducted an audit, and we found that all of our people complied with our policies as it relates to military equipment. For this year, the first bullet point is 9 patrol rifles. That may look like a repeat item to you, and that is because last year I had anticipated to purchase that on last year's report. And we put in for that purchase shortly after I delivered my report to you, but we are still waiting for those rifles to be delivered. I do believe that we will receive those rifles prior to the end of this fiscal year. So we're getting very close as per our supplier on that. This year, we have also purchased 12,000 rounds of training ammunition at a cost of $4,070. We have also purchased 1,000 rounds of duty ammunition. There is a difference in the two, and the duty ammunition ran us $987. And I do anticipate the purchase of an additional 25 rounds of our 40 millimeter exact impact munition at a cost of $673. The 6 patrol rifles that I had anticipated on retiring by the end of this fiscal year, I'm now going to carry over to next fiscal year, simply because we have not yet taken possession of the 9 patrol rifles that I want to purchase to make sure that all officers are equipped with a rifle. So we will maintain possession of those rifles, those 6 aged rifles, until next fiscal year. It is my belief that the Oakley Police Department, in working in the guidelines of AB 481 and in equipping our officers, I believe that we are both being transparent, and I believe that we are providing the best service possible to the community of Oakley. And I am available for questions or feedback. And I also want to add that part of AB 41 mandates that I conduct a community meeting 30 days after I do this presentation. So that community meeting is going to be May 16, 2024 in this room at 6 p.m.
All right, any questions from the council? This was an easy one. I think we're used to it now.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 6.2, waiving the first reading and introduce an ordinance amending section 2.1.010 of the Oakley Municipal Code concerning the use of social media by members of the City Council. This will be presented by our attorney, Derek Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'll make this brief. So we did have a workshop last meeting, and the council gave direction to bring the draft ordinance back. So that ordinance has been brought back. There are no changes. And so just to briefly recap, what this does is basically state what I'll term truisms, which is if you use social media, you might create a public record, you might engage in a meeting, you might run afoul in certain situations of being deemed to have prejudged a matter, especially if we're talking about what we've talked about as a quasi-judicial decision. And really the code will simply advise you of those things as you'll receive a copy of the code each term that you serve at the beginning of your term. And so I'm happy to answer any questions, but if it's the pleasure of the council to introduce this tonight, you may do so. If you want to consider substantive amendments that go beyond just a few words here or there, my preference is that you direct me to bring that back rather than try to wordsmith on the fly. But otherwise, the matter is ready for public comment and your deliberation.
All right, do I have any questions from the council? I don't have any public speaker card. Did you have a question? No? Councilmember Fuller, no question?
I have discussion.
Okay, perfect. I did not have any speaker cards, but are there any members of the public that wish to speak on this item? And nobody else over here has questions, right? Sorry, it's hard without this button, everybody. It's hard. All right, so I will open it up for discussion. Councilmember Fuller.
Yes, I want to first commend both Mr. Cole and Councilmember Meadows for the courage that they've exemplified in bringing this resolution up. This is not a comfortable position for free speech within this council chambers. It is not and has not been for a few years. I usually don't bring up this, but I will this time. Councilmember Meadows talks about 6 generations. My great-great-whatever grandfather arrived at 1620 in Plymouth, Massachusetts, Dr. Samuel Fuller. He was the first doctor in Plymouth, and he died an early death because he was treating patients. Since that time, I am proud to say that my family has served their country, has worked diligently. Yes, there's probably somebody who will say they were colonizers. I understand that. But in the process, they built a great nation. And that great nation came up with the Bill of Rights. And the Bill of Rights exists for many reasons. One of them is freedom of speech. I entered the opportunity and the distinct honor of entering into military service during wartime in the United States Marine Corps before 3 of the council members were even born. The 4th, Mr. Henderson, I believe, Councilmember Henderson was probably going around in shorts. But at that time, I went through and they were members of World War II, veterans of World War II that had served in the Marine Corps during that time. And during that time, I began to understand what is standing up for this Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And many have given their lives to ensure that we have. If you ever get to Pearl Harbor, those that haven't seen it, in Oahu, if you do and go out there, you will see what the Japanese intended, how badly we handled it, and what our response was. Germany was on the other one, and people were giving their lives to ensure that we would have the freedom of speech, because if we lost, we would lose it. So when I hear this over and over and over again, I see the resolution that Mr. Cole has brought up. I've heard Councilmember Meadows say that people ought to be able to say what they want to say on this dais. And I agree, but I believe they probably have been angered some of the people. Yes, we need to know that that's what's going to happen with free speech, and we take the responsibility for it. And when I say something up here, I understand that. Or when I write something, I understand that. But when somebody comes to me and say, you better take that back or you're going to suffer a consequence, that's, that becomes a death before dishonor situation. You just shouldn't say something like that with me. And it should be said. This council, in the years that have gone by since I've sat on the dais, has spent $25,000 on consultants to find a way to have a social media policy that would quiet certain council members, especially myself, that we are saying the wrong things and we ought to have something. $25,000 in the consultants. If you add in the fees for bringing together the meetings and Mr. Cole's expertise in writing the resolutions, it is at least $10,000. So this council has spent $35,000 on trying to abridge free speech. And I find it just shameful. We cannot get a simple device for somebody that's hard of hearing in front of them so they can hear. And I hear, well, it's expensive, it's all this. Well, Dr. Fuller, you don't understand. But we managed to get $35,000 built for this. So I still stand, and I want to commend the two people that have been here. And I hope this ends the dialogue. I know that it'll still go. We're going to have censures, and we're going to have all sorts of whoop-de-doos and things like that. But the thing is that we still have free speech up here, and that's what's important. So having said that, I will move the item as presented.
Any other discussion? Just a point of clarification, I believe it was Councilmember Henderson who asked for this ordinance, so I just would like the record to reflect that he asked for the ordinance, so. Okay, we have a first. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, passes 5-0. All right, item 7.1, city manager reports.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, members of the City Council, and members of the public. The first report, the county is undergoing an update to their local hazard mitigation plan. We have slides running on our screens here to bring awareness to that, but I have a prepared statement just to provide more awareness and to do our part in advertising what the county is doing. So in an effort to make the county more disaster ready and resilient, the Contra Costa County Office of Emergency Services is seeking public feedback on the 2024 Local Hazard Mitigation Plan. This plan serves as a guide for the county and the Oakley to become more resilient to the impacts of natural, human-caused, and technological hazards. Oakley residents are invited to provide feedback on the plan, which can be found by visiting the city's website at www.ci.oakley.ca.us and clicking on the 2024 Hazard Mitigation Plan post under the News and Announcements, or using the links in the city's Facebook, Instagram, and Nextdoor accounts. We've also included a QR code to the plan on one of the slides being displayed during the meeting, as well as on the sign in the City Hall lobby. Also wanted to provide an update on the Burroughs property. Appreciate the approval for the purchase and sale agreement with KB Homes North Bay tonight on the agenda. And as a result of that, you all are aware and the public's aware, we are starting construction on East Cypress Road, and the construction of that roadway starts with the borough's frontage. You'll see construction starting next week, and we're going to start at the west end of the site, and that is at the intersection of East Cypress Road and Knightson Avenue, and that is where the signalized intersection will be constructed. We'll move further east on the project. We are going through some permitting, and we have some birds in the area that are delaying the work slightly, but we are working through that with the resource agencies. And not unlike every construction project, there tends to be delays, and this one is delaying us some, but we expect to get under construction within the next few months on the remainder of the roadway. If you remember, we do have a contract signed. The contractor is ready to start work as soon as we have the green light on that. Also want to highlight, as the Vice Mayor mentioned and the Mayor mentioned, May 4th is our city anniversary. So that will be held here at Civic Center Park from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. We'll have bands and a movie to end the night. And the last update before I get into B and C, I wanted to reintroduce Ken Strelo, who you know is our planning manager for several years and has worked with the city for over 17 years. He has been recently promoted as of yesterday to our community development director. So just wanted to acknowledge Ken Strelo. Now we'll move to item B, and as a result of the Affordable Housing Ad hoc Committee, part of the resolution from that committee is for the management company, Wynn Residential, to provide in the short term monthly updates on the project, and that has been attached to the agenda. There is representation here from the management company if there are any questions, and I'll stop there and leave that open for the council.
We do have a public comment on this item. I would like to ask the council if they would like to ask questions of the report or hear the public comment first.
I have comments on both of them, but
Yeah,
they're easy comments, so.
So do you want to do yours first, or do you want to
Well,
let the
that's up
public
to
comment?
you. You're the.
Okay, anybody else have thoughts on public comment first? Okay. All right, so if we could please hear from the public comment, Barbara Bautista.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to, first off, thank the city for getting involved in the ad hoc committee. There were a lot of things that came out of it that were helpful. The one thing that I know that the wind company put in their report and what they're doing and everything, but from a tenant's perspective, and I get around the community there a lot, so I've spoken to a lot of tenants in the senior and the community, the families. And they're very pleased right now because things are moving along. Landscaping has started, maintenance has started, and it doesn't mean that things aren't going to still improve. It's just that we're seeing a lot of things happening. Trees are getting marked for trimming and so forth. But the grounds are looking a lot better, sort of like when I first moved in 11 years ago, that it's getting back to that, and that's nice to see. The community rooms, we love ours. They redid the floors, and we're just really happy with that. So we do see some progress happening on it. The tenants are still, they're watching and they're seeing, and the garbage is still, sort of an issue, but not as big as it started out to be in their opinion. The blasts that they send out are very effective. So we're seeing a lot of improvement. We know that there's room for more, and this is just the beginning of it. And we have faith that that's going to continue on. So, thank you.
Okay, now questions, comments of the city council? Go ahead, Councilmember Fuller.
Yes, on the Oaks, my concern is I want to thank both council member, and Meadows and Councilmember Shaw on what they've done to bring this together, to put it, because action is going. The one thing that's passing, and I believe is probably passing everybody's mind, is what do we do if this doesn't continue? Unfortunately, I've lived long enough to see that it gets started right until the right moment after an election, and maybe not so much. So I think we have to monitor that. I am a little bit chagrined. When I first noticed, the first thing that pops up in that report is we can't make any money type of report. You know, we've got 74 tenants, we need 79 to break even. Type of thing. When I start seeing that, the next thing I'm going to hear, well, yeah, we had all these great ideas, but we're running out of money. And I say that because, and I'm not going to try to explain it. That's Mr. McMurray's job or Mr. Cole's, but we are somewhat part owners of that apartment. We're supposed to be getting revenue back, but we never do. We facilitated the bonds for the construction, so we do need to take responsibility for that area. Please don't ask me to explain. If you want to know, ask those two how it worked. But so that's my only comment. Be aware of it.
Any questions or comments? Vice Mayor Shaw.
Yeah, I do want to thank Oak for that you're here. Thank you for this. Thank you for the report. I did ask you to give me the good and the bad, so obviously the short in revenue is part of the bad. I would like to see maybe in the next one how many of the residents are participating in the regular meetings, just so we can get an idea that we are having that participation the same way we had when we were having the meetings here. I am happy, Barbara, thank you very much for giving us a resident perspective. I do still get calls from residents. Obviously, nothing changes overnight. I don't want to borrow worry on what may happen, so we're going to continue on with these updates. And you know, if things get real bad again, we've talked about being able to bring the ad hoc committee back, and hopefully we don't have to do that. But this is a very thorough report. I do appreciate it, and let's just try to get this place leased up so we can have the full revenue.
Councilmember Meadows.
Thank you. So, yeah, thank you, Oak, for bringing the report, like you said, and thank you, Barbara, for your comments. And I'd like to continue to hear those comments every time that Wynn brings a report in. To Councilmember Fuller's comments on the revenue part, like I said in the meetings, I don't care what their revenue is. I mean, they have responsibilities, and they need to meet those responsibilities. I'm a landlord and a property manager. It doesn't matter if I'm making money or not. I have to do certain things to provide habitable housing, and so do they. So, and they know that. So, thank you for what you guys have done so far, and we'll just be watching.
Any questions? I would like to have a couple follow-ups. I see on the day-to-day maintenance, there's a couple things. It says 96 new work orders were reported in March, and then the follow-up is 295 work orders were completed in March. I would still like to see how many are called in for March. Obviously, there was a big backlog called in. I would like to see how many of these how old the old ones were, right? If you only got 96, and how many of those were completed, and then how old are these ones that are 295 seems like a big jump from 96. So I would love to see some data on that. And I know one of the pain points that I've heard about are the gates, and I know that's constantly been an issue. It looks like a vendor was supposed to repair on the 17th, so I'm hoping some follow-up to see if the gate actually got repaired and what the long-term plan is to keep that, closed for the residents. So I don't know if in future reports we can just have a little more details around. I know this had to get in before, but I would love to have updates on that gate because I know it was an issue. And I like some of the things that everybody was talking about like we'd like to know the number of residents who are, using these services, going to the meetings and stuff like that. I do like all of the info that you're giving around the programming that is offered. I would love to just see the numbers of the people that are utilizing that the food insecurity stuff, like that's an important number for us to know. It's an issue here. So I would like to know those numbers and just how many people are using all these different programs, because I think that's a great service that you offer, but are people finding out about it? Are they utilizing it? Those are two very different things. So, Councilmember Meadows.
So to follow up on what you were asking for with the service request, I'd like to see the average days. So, what's the average day from open to close on a ticket, on a service ticket?
Okay, great. I think we can be done with that one. All right, so now we're moving on to item C, the legislation update.
Yes, this is a follow-up to past future agenda item request. So the first one is an update on AB 1657, the Affordable Housing Bond Act of 2024. The analysis provided, still the item is at the Senate Appropriations Committee. It's being held there. I don't have any other update other than what is in the analysis. If there's any comments or direction, I'm happy to take that.
No, they're two separate items. We'll do them one at a time. So you can go if you want to have, if you have comments on that one, we can talk about that one.
Well, we're talking about 1657? Okay. I thought that was a good analysis. One thing that appeared in there is about halfway down on the first page. It says that the state legislature can change different allocations and rewrite the laws regarding affordable housing. And the last time we had that coming in, it basically said that yes, they can change the RENA numbers, and that's still my interpretation, that with 1657 passes at $10 billion, that they will be able to take everything that's been done before and rewrite it in a manner that they want to put it in, which bothers me considerably. I keep saying that, but attending ABAG meetings, that's all I hear about it is, oh, this is great because we're going to be able to change our RENA numbers, and it's mostly coming from our more affluent areas in the south or along the more cooler areas in a coastal area. So where the affordable housing numbers are much higher, RENA numbers, than ours. So that's the only discussion.
Are we able to get just a little bit of follow-up? Can you confirm with them? Because reading the bill, reading all the different amendments and stuff that I've gone through, they don't mention RENA in much of this. So I would like to know, I know, we have a Transportation Bond Act that's kind of part of a bunch of different things too. So can you find out if the intention is to decouple those two things? Because it isn't mentioned in here, but that doesn't mean it's an impossibility, so.
Yes, I can confirm that for sure.
Okay, great.
And the next piece of analysis that was provided was for AB 1033. This was the accessory dwelling unit, local ordinance, separate sale or conveyance. And essentially and this is signed into law, so this is already chaptered, and it went into effect at the beginning of this year. What this law essentially allows cities to do, it opens the door for a city to create an ordinance that would then allow an accessory dwelling unit to be sold or conveyed separately. Right now, without that ordinance in place, any single-family property that's allowed an ADU by right, you're not allowed to sell the ADU or the home separately. It's sold as one on one parcel. You can rent them out separately, you just can't convey or sell them separately. This allows a city to introduce an ordinance that would allow for that under specific conditions, very similar to how you would create a residential condo or a commercial condo process. So happy to answer any questions or if there's any feedback or direction from the council.
Any questions or comments? Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, reading the first paragraph, number 1, it says may implement it. So we are not required to implement it. If we do implement it, there's a number of requirements we need to meet, but we are not obligated to follow this, which is I'm kind of happy to hear about. I would just as soon not get into backyard units being sold with neighbors and condominiums over the garage myself, but that's my opinion.
I agree, as a real estate agent, I agree with you.
Any other questions or comments here? Okay, full visibility, I was the one who asked for some further analysis of this one, mostly because I had people coming up to me, asking me about it, local smaller developers who, they're deciding what cities they would like to target the cities that are adopting these ordinance to provide these ADUs. As I've mentioned before, I do sit on a policy committee that talks about community services, and our biggest focus, one of the biggest focuses right now, is homelessness and the easy path that gets people to homelessness. So I brought this up not because I'm necessarily in favor of it, against it. I just want to know what the implications are if we adopted an ordinance like this, with the caveat that there are right now a couple Senate bills that are going before Tax and Rev that are reducing the fee structures that ADUs potentially would be exempt from all fees for 15 years, which I think would be a disaster for cities. So I would be interested in seeing, if we passed an ordinance like this, what the implications would be on a housing supply side, and then also what the implications would be for any fees that we collect from it, and what it would actually do to our neighborhood. So again, not saying I'm for or against this, just was hoping for more details. I don't want to send the staff down a rabbit hole if nobody else is interested in that analysis. So that was my request for this one. All right. So I guess we are moving on to item 7.2, reports from council liaisons to regional committees, commissions, boards, Oakley City Council acting as the successor agency to the Oakley Redevelopment Agency. Who would like to go first? Oh, sorry, I saw Aaron's hand up first. Councilmember Meadows.
So last Wednesday, I attended Contra Costa Transportation Authority. A lot of the meeting was spent listening to a presentation on WETA ferry service and the 4 potential locations, 2 in Hercules, 3 different cities, 4 different locations or whatever. Martinez, Pittsburgh, and Antioch. So, and that's all.
All right, Councilmember Fuller.
Yes, a little belabored here, but I did mention that last meeting I would have some more, and I did attend more meetings and watch more on virtual than I really wanted to. But it comes up that with the BAFA and ABAG and executive committees, and right now they're very, how can I say it, intertwined. It's hard to disassociate one from the other. But during that time, the person that was heading the housing committee, Carlos Romero, he said he's speaking for the landowners, the developers, and the citizens of the county, and I was rather amused with that, and I'll come by later why. But that's what they expect when it ends. The final action of the $20 billion bond, regional bond for affordable housing, will go for final approval. However, with ABAG, that doesn't mean General Assembly. Everything is done in committee. So the committee will making the final decision if it goes to goes as a regional bond in November, or at least proposed to in June, probably after the General Assembly, which is June 21st. They had a rather, I thought, pretty good poll. What they found was that, first, that no surprise, in the 9-county area, citizens don't believe that government's doing a good job by 67%. That was right there. They do believe that we need more money. They believe affordable housing does need more money, but they are not in favor of a tax. They're very tax sensitive. People overwhelmingly do not want to vote, at least in a county, 9-county area, for additional taxes for anything, for any matter that went through. So, and quite a bit, 69 to 31%. So they just aren't there. they went on to who favors it in the county. They only get 50%. And this is what I found was kind of I don't want to say amusing, but it was. They said, we're speaking for everybody. The poll shows only 50% would vote for it. They need 2/3, so that was kind of, if it was there, it wouldn't pass. The reply was that, especially from Berkeley Mayor Jesse Arreguin, who's now trying to be our district senator, District 7, state senator. We really have to get going. We really, as all the elected officials in ABAG, have to go out and campaign for this. We really have to go through. We're going through with all this, and it was kind of, what can I say? It makes a great soapbox for him to stand on during the campaigning, but I don't know what they're going to do to try to overcome a 50%, but it's going to cost a lot of money for them to campaign. Not surprising, Alameda and San Francisco are those that would favor it, but still not by 2/3, and the rest of the 9-county area would not favor it. Moving on to BAFA, which came in, they discussed labor standards. Labor standards, they want to have project labor agreements, trying to figure out if they will have project labor agreements for all the money that is coming into, will be coming into ABAG, or at least, the 80% that will go out to others. If it goes out to a city, the city will have to go a PLA for anything that's spent. They said, but the state legislature is holding that up. In talking with a few people that I won't mention now, but from some inside scoop that I got, the trades have already gone for a PLA agreement with ABAG and BAFA, and they turned them down. But then when turning them down, said, we'll send it up to the state, and they don't expect that to pass. The PLA for local areas will be allowable. I'm not opposed to that, but it would be, the local areas would keep it, supposedly. But keep in mind, BAFA is doing everything that they can to get 100% control out of the regional bonds. They are still active. They're still with the legislature. They still want all the money. Keep in mind, they have an expenditure amount. It was like Councilmember Williams was mentioning last meeting. They expect a big pot in the regional area that will be allocated out, and they're trying to get it so they will allocate all the money in one manner or another. So this is going there. That's about, the rest of it goes on. So to that, I think I've addressed most of the issues that will be up here and what we impacting here. And as you know, I did go to the April 18th, Mayor Williams mentioned the April 18th. And I did go to the power one. That was even more depressing. Apparently, the power committee out of ABAG has taken it upon itself to start in the process of allocating natural gas because they say it's going to be a lot cheaper. I don't know who the customers are. I didn't want to stick around. I didn't want to go through it. I can try to get it. But the bottom line is all the areas that they show they're going to be saving money, they have different double-digit increases in prices in the natural gas they're selling. The biggest thing that I saw is they plan to be a regional natural gas distributor. So again, we hear the word regional. And I didn't go to the MTC, that's somebody else's, Bailiwick, and I thought this would be enough for me. So.
Councilmember Henderson.
On April 16th, I attended Iron House Sanitation Board of Directors meeting. On 4/19, I attended the Green Empowerment Zone. And then yesterday, the East Contra Costa County Conservator met.
Vice Mayor Shaw.
On the 10th, I did the chamber mixer, and the Friends of Oakley Library had their first presentation for be fundraising for the new library and community center that we are trying to get going. On the 17th, there was a library subcommittee meeting. We do have a tour with Assembly Member Lori Wilson later this week, and we're going to try to get some more attention around our library project. On the 18th, I went to a fundraiser for Get Vocal for Victims, and it is a nonprofit that provides legal and victims services to families at no cost. And the speaker was a former officer former police officer who was working security and killed, and his family was denied any victims' rights because they said that he was the victim and not the family. And so this organization was able to help bring some services to that family and get them a little more justice. On the 20th, I went to the Opportunity Junction Gala, and Opportunity Junction provides training for low-income Contra Costa County residents to get into either the workforce with administration or nursing. They are going to be doing a ribbon cutting for their nurses assistant program, or their second nursing program that they're starting up in Antioch. I don't have the date for that. And today I was on a Zoom. I don't announce this often. My brother passed away 5 years ago from a fentanyl overdose, and next week I am speaking at the fentanyl awareness event. There is still time to register. It is on April 30th at 6 p.m. It will be held at Liberty High School District in the Performing Arts Center, and there's going to be lots of presentations regarding fentanyl awareness, Narcan administration, and they are going to be giving out Narcan to all of the registered attendees that would like it. And I am going to honor my brother and speak about it, so as a personal experience. And that is all.
I also attended the chamber mixer. We wanted to support the Friends of the Oakley Library, really doing their first presentation. Sorry, now I can't talk. That's salsa. The library stakeholder meeting, as Vice Mayor Shaw already highlighted. And I also went to Get Vocal for Victims, and yesterday I had the opportunity to take a long tour with Loaves and Fishes, who services Oakley and most of Contra Costa County through dining rooms and stuff, and had a great experience getting to know their operation and all the things they do for our community. And it's an important resource. That's why I was talking about food insecurity, because as much as we don't like to admit it, Oakley is the third most utilized for their meals, and we're one of the smallest service areas, so it's a pretty shocking number to beat out Antioch for food insecurity. So I would just like to call attention to it's here in Oakley, and we should be figuring out ways to make sure that our community members are able to eat. So that's why I wanted some more details around what the Oaks is doing for their folks. That's it for my reports. Now we're moving on to item B, request for future agendas. Does anybody have anything? Okay, I do. I would like to put it up. Cal City has just released a slate of, I think, 5 bills that they are in support of that have pretty substantial changes to Prop 47, which I think we all know is a tough thing here. So I would like for our city to write a letter of support along with Cal City's for those changes, because there are some substantive changes that would actually punish some of the things, especially as it comes to retail theft. So.
I would second that, and Cal Cities did provide some sample letters as well, so.
I already forwarded them to Josh, hoping that we would get at least a second, so perfect. So do you have all the info you need on that? Okay, perfect. All right, great. Item 8, there are no work sessions tonight. We do have a closed session, 9.1 Public Employee Performance Evaluation, pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.5E for our city manager. We will adjourn after this, so I thank you for joining, and our next meeting will be held Tuesday, May 14th, 2024, beginning at 6:30 p.m. in Oakley City Council chambers.